Welcome to Necromaniacs Podcast, episode number 6, the Halloween episode.
Yes. Happy Halloween, everybody. This one is going to do things a little bit differently this time. We've decided for Halloween that instead of just picking, 3 or 4 movies and, talking about them and dissecting them, we decided that for our first ever Halloween edition, we've picked our personal top 10 favorite horror movies each. Not collectively. We've done an individual list each, and that's what we're going to talk about this evening.
Yeah, maybe we'll just, one of us will start, list them out, and then the ones that are similar and common between the two, then we'll just mention that this is similar in both of our lists.
And I just want to drive home now, this is not the 10 best horror movies of all time. This is not the 10 greatest horror movies of all time. This is just our favorites, personal favorites. So, I think a lot of times, sometimes people's lists get very misconstrued that way because it's like, how are these the best 10 movies ever? You know what I'm saying? But that's not what we're saying.
They're just favorites. That's it.
Exactly.
It's our own personal preferences. We're not saying our list is better than yours or anything like that.
Exactly.
And actually, we encourage people to maybe post their top 10 lists on our Facebook page.
Exactly. At Necromaniacs Podcast Facebook is facebook.com/Necromaniacs Podcast. That was a little bit of a mouthful there. But, and it's growing, and thank you to everybody who's checking it out and liking it and sharing it. We're getting there, slowly but surely.
One possible development here is earlier this week, I met Magnus Henriksen, who's the PR guy over at Bazillion Points Books, which is, if you don't know who they are, they're a publishing company based here in New York, actually right down the street from me here.
Wow.
Right over in lovely Greenpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And they primarily focus on music-related stuff.
Yeah, they did the Swedish death metal book. They did the Celtic Frost book. They've done the Slayer magazine book. I mean, if you're into death and black metal, thrash metal, you definitely have heard of Bazillion Points. And their next venture delves into the New York hardcore scene. They have the New York hardcore book coming out in December as well.
So an author actually on that label reached out to me and was interested. His name is Mike McBeardo McPadden. And, he was listening to the podcast and he wanted to know if we were interested in checking out his book, Heavy Metal Movies, and, possibly doing a review. Mm-hmm. And, he looped in Magnus. And once we got to talking, we realized that he lives like 5 blocks away from me, and the office is like 6 blocks away from me.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So, I swung by there on Monday, either Monday or Tuesday, and he gave me a copy of the book. And
the book's been out for a couple of months. I actually almost bought it at one point, actually. So it's kind of cool that this has come our way. It's a very nice, thick book that we were talking about before we started, that it not only covers all the heavy metal movies like, Black Roses and et cetera, Trick or Treat, but it also kind of ties in bands that made albums about certain movies or songs about certain movies, et cetera. So it's kind of an interesting idea.
And apparently Mike McPadden's also a New Yorker, so we're probably going to try to he'll be our first guest ever, actually.
Yes.
We're going to do an interview.
First ever interview on Necromaniacs Podcast. We definitely want to do more in the future, too. So
yeah, we'll have to Skype him in because I think he lives out in the Midwest or somewhere
cool.
at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to look forward to. Possibly our next episode, maybe.
Yes, maybe.
We're both going to read the book, put our thoughts together, have Mr. McPadden on the podcast, and see where it goes.
Cool. Excellent.
So who wants to go first? You want to go first, Mike?
I will go first for my top 10 favorite horror films. My number 10 is a 60s film. It is Rosemary's Baby from 1968, directed by Roman Polanski. What can we say about Rosemary's Baby? I got to tell you, it came out of the late 60s, the end of the hippie era, and it also came out the year that some people say the modern horror year kicked off, 1968, which was the year Night of the Living Dead came out as well. And I think culturally, a very kind of crazy year. And oddly enough, the turmoil in Roman Polanski's life a year later would kind of mirror this movie a little bit. You could say, huh?
Yeah, with the Manson connection.
Yes, absolutely. This is 1 year before Manson. I mean, it was shot in 67 and 68 in New York, but it came out in June of 68, and literally 1 year before all that horrible stuff went down in Roman Polanski's personal life. But I have to say, it is the only movie from the 60s on my top 10, but I have always had a very special place in my heart for this movie. Aside from even the, satanic angle, which obviously interests me, I just always felt that throughout this movie, from the moment it started, there was this sense of dread and this sense of what is going to happen, what can happen. The music, very creepy. Just, I don't know, it just sucked me in from the very first time I saw it over 20-something years ago. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I enjoyed that movie. I thought it was, it was interesting. It's got, a lovely Mia Farrow with the short hair in it. Mm-hmm. And definitely, it's not one of my top 10, but I would say it's a top 20 or more.
It is a top 20.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, just for the atmosphere. The whole subject matter of childbirth, and which pops up quite a bit in the horror genre.
Yes,
childbearing, and in a lot of different ways. Even one of the movies on my list touches on the childbearing, sort of phenomenon, in a sort of perversion of the childbearing.
True.
We'll get to that later, though.
But I just want to say a little bit about the score. Christoph Komeda. Wow. I mean, Mike Patton's Phantomas went on to cover the main theme from Rosemary's Baby. It has just that haunting female vocal and that haunting orchestral score. It's just something that kind of stays with you forever, I always felt. And it also has one of the greatest endings, I think, in horror cinema, or satanic horror cinema, where essentially you could say the bad guys win. You could say about the end of Rosemary's Baby. The son of Satan is born, and they go, the year is one, and it's a very kind of pro-satanic movie, you could really, say.
Well, it's also sort of, like we touched on this on the last episode, how those sort of late 60s films kind of left the ending unresolved in a lot of ways. Like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Night of the Living Dead,
movies of that era, yeah.
Movies of that era. I'm not saying like specifically in 1968, but that might have been the beginning of that, the good guys don't always like prevail.
Absolutely.
That permeates today, even today. There's like, it's like those movies are groundbreaking in that respect.
Yeah. Earlier this year, there was the, so-so television remake of it on NBC. It was like a two-parter. Not nearly as haunting, not nearly as good as this movie, but I'm almost glad they didn't even make a cinematic attempt to remake this movie, because I put this in the pantheon of films they should just leave alone, don't you?
Definitely. Yeah, there are several films that should be left alone, and though a couple of remakes actually appear on my list.
Oh,
I'm generally not a fan of the remakes.
My list, I will say, is technically remake free, except for number 9. But we'll get to my number 9. You could kind of say it's a remake. My number 9. But Mike, what is your number 10?
My number 10 is the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Wow! See,
by
very
Zack Snyder.
Interesting, huh?
Yep. Came out in 2004, and I when I first heard back in 2004, when I first heard they were remaking that film, I was not into it at all. I thought it was
neither was I initially. Yeah,
because the Romero version of the film, the original version, I thought was amazing, and it was great and scary and all that. But
no need to touch it.
Yeah, I sort of reluctantly went to go to the theater to see that movie, and I got to tell you, man, it really grabbed a hold of me, and it's something that I actually watch that more often than I watch the original.
Now, that is very interesting. The original makes an appearance on my list, but I will say the 2004 Dawn of the Dead, I have a similar story. I went and saw it with my brother John in 2004, and I would say 2004, 2005 was a nice kind of reinvigoration era of horror, and this movie, in my opinion, kind of helped bring that along, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I sat in the theater, and the movie started, and I was like, you know what, man? This looks like it's going to be really interesting,
Fascinating.
It is not a note-for-note remake. There's some similarities, obviously. One of the biggest changes is the zombies run in this movie. However, whereas that bothered me more in World War Z, it didn't bother me as much in this movie.
I thought they were terrifying as sort of fast-running versions of themselves. What theater did you see it in?
In Manhattan, actually. It was in Manhattan there, yes. I can't remember when, but it was when he and I were with our respective women at the time. And the four of us saw it, and all four of us really liked it. I remember really liking it a lot.
Remember back in 2004, there was a movie theater on Flatbush Avenue that's now a American Apparel.
Ah, okay. That's where you saw it?
I saw it in that movie theater.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are no movie theaters left on Flatbush Avenue, to my knowledge. So, wow.
Yeah, the only one hanging strong was Pavilion.
And right, and then I think there's a movie theater in Kings Plaza still. I'm not even 100% sure that there is. That was one of the scariest places to see a movie too, by the way.
Everyone seems to be. If you read about the Pavilion, it's like that's Park Slope technically.
Yes. Oh yeah, it is.
The people always talk about negatively about that place, but
really?
I always have a great time.
I like it there.
I love that.
I haven't been there in a while since I moved out of there, and then I started going to the Alpine and Bay Ridge a lot.
Yeah.
But no, I do like it. I saw tons of movies there.
Yeah, well, you and I saw a couple films.
We saw Halloween, and then we also, I believe, saw the
My Bloody
Valentine remake, which was good. I enjoyed it.
And it has that movie theater has sort of like that old school theater vibe.
It does. That's one of the things I like about it.
Yeah.
So wow, Dawn of the Dead remake, very interesting choice.
I thought Ving Rhames was great in it. There's a couple of great scenes in there. The ending is probably one of my favorite scenes.
It is a great ending. Yes.
You think they get away, and they don't.
And they do not.
And they meet a very bloody demise.
Yes.
The special effects were great in that movie.
And it's Zack Snyder's debut, man. Yeah. Wow, he's obviously gone on to do some great stuff.
Yeah, it made me feel like Zack Snyder knows how to do action. You know what I mean?
I would love to see him do another horror movie one day.
Me too. Yeah. Also, the one of the biggest disappointments was the Wolverine films. And I would like to see Zack Snyder do a Wolverine.
Although the first one starts out nice, the last 45 minutes are a mess. I did enjoy The Wolverine. I actually did enjoy it. The second one, I enjoyed that movie. I felt like I was watching an action movie with Wolverine instead of a superhero movie with Wolverine. That's why I kind of liked it.
I think Zack Snyder would kill it, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's that's my number 10. It's definitely the zombie genre is one of my favorite genres. I mean, I probably like zombies more than anything, really.
No, totally.
Zombies and like satanic possession films are probably some of my favorite. Yeah,
definitely for me too. I mean, and of course, I like slashers. I like the traditional slasher movies.
Yeah.
Which is not a traditional slasher, which will bring me to what I don't know. Is Bram Stoker's Dracula, is it a remake of Dracula?
I'm not going to say that.
No, right? I guess it's not a remake, so I guess I have no remakes on my list. My number 9 is a movie we did discuss 2 podcasts ago in our Vampire Edition, Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. We've said quite a bit about this movie. I have it tattooed on my arm. No one's a bigger proponent of this movie than me. Yeah, I mean, there's a multitude of reasons why I like this movie so much. The music, the atmosphere, the fact that although it's from the 90s, it has a very nice nod to the late 60s, 70s Hammer films. It's just, I don't know. I think I said this the last time. I watched it 30 times, I think, as an usher at the United Artists Movie Theater in Sheepshead Bay. I just would watch it constantly when it was airing. I worked at that theater for about 2.5 years in college, by the way. Saw many a movie there. But yeah, it's just one of those movies that always just stuck with me from when I was 19 on. And, it's actually gained fans, I think, over the years. Some people didn't look as fondly upon it, I think, at one point for Keanu Reeves. But I feel like when you look it up now and you read things on it, it actually gets a lot of praise. So
I think it's great. I it's not one of my top 10, but it's definitely in my top 20 horror films. It's just it's a great film. Like it's a really well-made film. Exactly. The acting's great in it. Keanu Reeves is fine. Like he's not. I'm not one of those guys who hates on Keanu Reeves.
Me neither.
I have. He has a place in the firmament of Hollywood actors.
Absolutely,
in my opinion,
he's a legend in a way. He's and if you read about him, his personal life, you'll probably really like the damn guy. He gives all of his money away, apparently, and lives like very meager means. That's one of the things that is supposedly a true story about Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, and the ravishing Winona Ryder was in that
Yes,
film.
that's top form Winona Ryder, 92, Winona Ryder, looking very nice.
Out of prime, in my opinion.
Yes. Definitely. Wojciech Kilar, rest in peace. One of the best scores, ever, to any movie, not just a horror movie. So yeah, big proponent of Bram Stoker's Dracula as my number 9.
My number 9 is John Carpenter's Halloween.
Wow.
Which came out in 1978.
All the way at 9.
Yeah.
This movie might make an appearance a bit later.
Once again, man, it's not, I was real honest about my things here.
Yes.
It's I really prioritize this list by movies that I feel motivate me to watch them again and again.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's my, at this, juncture in my life, that's where I'm at with these movies. Halloween is such a stylistically perfect slasher film. It's one of the pioneer films in that genre. It's moody. It has that, similar to Halloween itself, the actual holiday of Halloween.
And it is one of the most successful independent films ever made, Halloween. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
When you're a kid, the day of Halloween, there's this build up to the night of, going out, putting your costume on and trick-or-treating and doing your, whatever you got planned for yourself when you're a young kid.
Yeah.
And this movie has that same sort of build up to it. It's the dusk sets in but then the build up is to horrific murder and stalking and stuff.
And you're wondering, who is this person? Who is this killer? I mean, there's so many, you have so many questions as you're watching the movie,
And you got to love that score too.
Absolutely. Also by John Carpenter himself. Yes.
John Carpenter, quite an accomplished musician.
Oh yeah. People don't even realize.
They don't. And I'm a big fan of most of his work, And I think that, just that, the theme song for Halloween, that's such a recognizable thing.
And he has admitted that he was definitely inspired by the theme from Suspiria to create, not necessarily sonically, he was inspired to make something as unforgettable as that. He thought that was he was very into the music in that movie and Goblin soundtrack. And he himself was I want something that's memorable and that people are going to associate this movie with. And if you ever heard the story where they screened Halloween for the executives without the music versus screening it with the music, they screened without the music, and they were like, this movie isn't scary. This movie isn't scary. It's not scary.
Really?
And then screened it again with the music, and the executives were blown away. That's a true story, supposedly.
Yeah.
But and I'll have to say that Halloween, since we've hit doubles here, where Halloween is my number 4.
Oh, okay.
I just view it, to me, it is just a quintessential horror movie. It is probably in everybody's top 10 or 5. I mean, it's definitely a lot of people think it's a number 1, but I just feel, and I saw it last year in the theater, for the first time in a theater actually, and it still kind of packed that same punch. I was still drawn throughout the movie, was not bored for a minute. It's just something that it's almost like an annual tradition of watching the movie every year around Halloween time that never loses its luster,
Also, Michael Myers is such a good villain, with the mask and, he has that worker jacket and the Dickies and the work boots. And he's just he's such a good killer, and he's silent, And
throughout the movie until you hit the end, you're believing this. I mean,
Yeah.
you're there's no supernatural element really yet. I mean, Halloween 2 hasn't happened, and whatever, the sequels have not happened. You're watching this movie for the first time in a theater in, say, 1978, 79. You're like, holy shit, what is this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That must have been so fun to do that back then, you know?
One of the things that's the funniest thing about that film, too, is like the end where they reveal, the mask gets pulled off of him, and everyone comments about how horrible the guy's face looks, But apparently that dude, he didn't have any makeup on at all.
It was one of the three people who played him in the damn movie.
And if you look at the guy's face, he just looks like a regular guy.
He looks like a normal guy, yeah. It's not like some hideous, deformed face. It's actually not deformed at all. It's just kind of like a normal man, in a way, a young man, you know?
But the sort of, the brain just sort of
yes,
superimposes.
exactly.
And that's
like
what I find that very interesting.
What you think you see.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, he's not deformed at all. Not yet, of course, Michael Myers,
Halloween 2 was good.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that it picks up in the same night. I like when movies do that, when sequels do that,
The third one I thought was cool.
I tell you, the
Season
third
of the
one
Witch.
is a top 20, actually.
Yeah.
It stands alone, and it actually has gotten better over the years, and people have reevaluated it and now think it's a better movie.
Well,
apparently.
it's got nothing to do with the storyline.
No.
It was a marketing thing for them to even call it Halloween, apparently.
Right.
But I thought as a movie, I saw that in the theater, actually.
That I didn't see in the theater.
And I thought it was great, and I was like, wow, as a kid, I thought this was
Another
really cool.
super bleak ending, too. Oof.
Yeah.
Dead
They should
children.
break that one away. Like, they should repackage
Just call it Season of the
that.
Witch.
Just call it Season of the Witch.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Season of the Witch, a.k.a. Halloween 3.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's, has Soup That Up Blue Oyster Cult song, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Don't Fear the Reaper.
Uh-huh.
Great song.
It's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
Great song to listen to this time of year.
It's so perfect. Like, the movie it has a fall vibe, that the Don't Fear the Reaper is like a sort of autumn, dusky sort of, like, it's starting to get darker earlier.
Totally.
Kind
It's
of
all
trip.
there.
And that whole movie, just, the leaves, everything, like, the trees starting to get bare. It just creates this atmosphere. Then there's like this brooding, silent murderer lurking out there, with his like mask on. And it's just so, encapsulates like the vibe of the whole season. So
Absolutely.
great movie.
Well, this will bring me to my number 8, which is from 1987, Clive Barker's Hellraiser. One of the classic movies of the 80s, dare I say one of the best of the 80s horror movies. Spawned many sequels, many toys, many dolls, many masks, many tattoos.
Yeah.
Pinhead. I did not see Hellraiser in the theater. I saw it, I guess, in about a year later, 88, it came out on home video the same year as Part 2 came out in the theater. And again, all about, to me, Pinhead and the aesthetics and the look of Pinhead. And the also fantastic music. Christopher Young score.
Yep.
Another fantastic element about this movie. To me, it was like a movie that also could be considered almost a heavy metal music affiliated film in a way from around the time it came out. I remember Slayer South of Heaven was really big around the time I was watching Hellraiser. And there's a very interesting satanic aspect to it without using the word Satan, because the word Satan is not in Hellraiser. It's, Leviathan is the name of the Satan character. Hell is used, but if you really think about it, there is no references to the devil or Satan at all. But these people are devils, and that is hell. So that was always one of the coolest things I always thought about this movie.
I think that, that sort of demonic hellish vibe is almost more of this like sort of esoteric like trip where like Satan is just what the Christians call this devil, and like hell is a sort of biblical reference. But I think that Clive Barker being like a pretty trippy guy, like his demons and angels might actually be aliens or some creatures from like another realm or some other level of consciousness that sort of ends up sort of manifesting in this reality, and then getting into mayhem and all this other stuff. So that's hell might just be like another realm somewhere. No,
totally. That's I think what Clive Barker was going for.
That's what I always felt.
Yeah,
Hellraiser appears on my list too.
Oh, absolutely. What number is Hellraiser?
That's actually we'll get to that.
Oh, we will get to that. Oh,
it's
okay.
a little tease.
Interesting.
And apparently, the band Coil had a score for this film too.
Yes. That did not get used for some reason. Yeah.
And I read an interview last few years that apparently it's not going to ever be released.
Wow, it's like bootlegs only.
Yeah, because apparently it was just a demo. It wasn't a full blown they were just demoing it just to be like, okay, this is what I think we're going to do. And so the band themselves were not happy with the way it sounded. So it's very unlikely that's ever going to surface anytime.
Have you heard it?
I haven't. No.
You have not heard it. See, oh wow. See, I was under the impression that it was maybe it was on YouTube or something.
Probably
somewhere,
but I haven't heard it.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah,
but the score I always felt was one of the best parts of the movie.
Yeah.
It just also reminded me a little bit of like the Universal Monsters movie music, the music in Hellraiser, right?
Yeah.
Like the music in like Frankenstein and Dracula and the Werewolf.
I can see
it
that.
is highly symphonic and dramatic music throughout the movie. And just amazing performances from Andrew Robinson, Claire Higgins, Ashley Lawrence, and of course Doug Bradley, the man himself. I mean, another movie that was kind of an independent film, made for literally $1 million.
Really?
That was the whole budget of the film, and grossed $14 million.
Yeah. The other cool thing about Hellraiser is that it falls within that sort of the era of home video.
Yeah.
VHS cassettes.
Yep.
It was in the 80s, back in the heyday of like video stores.
Sure.
And that
it was a very hot rental, I remember. It was very hard to get at one point.
I think I actually have a VHS copy of that laying around still. So, that was the kind of thing where you would rent Halloween. You'd rent Hellraiser.
Sure.
And you would take it home and you'd watch it for the first time and get your mind blown by those movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, also, really good characters too. Brother Frank.
Oh my God.
Favorite. Sketchy.
I mean, also probably seeing that at about 14 years old, one of the first movies I witnessed to really show like skin kind of like dripping off you like that, and tendons, and just like a level of violence that I had not seen yet in horror. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was a new age in horror, I feel like that movie kicked off. And of course, Stephen King's quote of "I've seen the future of horror," and his name is Clive Barker, which was kind of his biggest kind of curse in a way. It was a great thing for him to say that, but it had him, like, it had so much to live up to after that, you know? But he was right, though, because that movie was the beginning of a new era of horror.
Yeah, the violence was almost this like very
unprecedented,
abstract sort of, there was like faces stretched and like weird, S&M
skin pulled apart. Yes, and it definitely had a heavy S&M vibe.
Yeah.
And obviously, as we learned years later, Clive Barker himself was, into that scene and wanted to incorporate some of that into a horror movie, which probably was one of the first times that ever happened. I mean, I can't recall anything prior to Hellraiser really kind of bringing home that kind of sadomasochistic vibe.
Yeah, I mean, there was a real sex vibe, a lot of sexuality in that movie, and in some ways, Brother Frank, is kind of like the protagonist in that movie.
Yeah,
in some ways, I'm not saying like he's a good guy or anything.
No,
he's a total anti-hero.
But it's kind of because of him that they're all in the place that they're in. Like, it's kind of his fault in a way,
But you see, like, there's like a dysfunction between the husband and the wife,
and the brothers.
Yeah, everyone's sort of there's a dysfunctional scenario, and then like Frank, the drifter, the sort of like sketchy, distant,
into weird stuff.
Yeah, dark
traveler.
Yeah, world traveler. He's going to all these far off lands, like, searching for extremity.
Yep.
Comes back and like fucks his brother's wife.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's got a lot of kind of sauciness to it.
Yes, it does. It definitely kind of blew my 14-year-old mind. I was like, whoa. And it really did kick off my horror obsession, I have to say.
Yeah.
Hellraiser kicked off from the late 80s on. I became a horror fanatic. That's really where it started, in the late 80s, with Hellraiser and then his Nightbreed, of course, and the movies of that era is really where it all kind of started for me. Before that, I was literally afraid of horror movies as a young child.
I can see that.
I was not into them at all, actually, at one point in my life. But movies like Hellraiser and Friday the 13th, etc., really kind of reshaped my whole view of everything. Very good.
Yeah, so that brings me to my number 8, which is Session 9.
I have seen that movie, I must say. I saw it once about a decade ago, maybe more, and I don't remember much about it.
Yeah, not a lot of people are familiar with this film. It's this dude Brad Anderson made it back in 2001, and Brad Anderson was also involved in The Machinist, the Christian Bale film.
Yes,
and Trans-Siberian, which I haven't seen actually.
Me neither. I've heard about it,
but I know the film. You know, because a lot of people probably aren't familiar with this movie, I'm just going to give you a brief plot rundown. It stars David Caruso, the red-headed Italian guy.
From NYPD Blue.
Very, very
Original.
Irish-looking with an Italian last name.
Yep.
But, so yeah, basically there's a crew of, it takes place in Boston, and it actually references the Danvers Mental Hospital, which is some friends of mine that live up there. That's like a infamous spot, you know. It's like, it's the kind of place where it's been, you know, languishing in dormancy for decades, and you know, kids will break in and like do drugs and, you know, spray paint like upside down crosses in there. And, you know, I'm sure like there have been teenage girls who have lost their virginity in there, and, you know,
that whole thing,
drinking, you know, beers and whatever, and listening to, you know, Slayer and stuff. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned it to anyone in Massachusetts that lives like around the Boston area, they're familiar with the Danvers Mental Hospital. So, you know, we have this like, that's almost like a character in the film itself. So this crew of insulation or asbestos workers, you know, it's such a Boston thing. Like these like Irish guys, they're like insulate, you know, asbestos removal company. You know, they low bid this job because, you know, the foreman is like needs the money. You know, things are not going well at home. So they go into this, you know, this place, and they start, you know, abating all the asbestos and doing their thing, and they're working like insanely long hours, and they find these audio cassettes of, you know, some of these atrocities that have gone on within the walls, like, you know, abuse of the patients and whatnot. So this sort of ghost presence may or may not have actually possessed one of the guys, and then all hell breaks loose. Oh, wow. So if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend it. I don't fully remember. I remember it being scary. I remember it being good, but I just don't have all the full memories of the whole movie, like, you know? Yeah. It's very claustrophobic. It's, it has this like weird like isolation thing going on. Some of the scenes take place in broad daylight, which is like from what year? Is it 2000 or 99? 2001. 2001. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah. I knew it was a little after Blair Witch. You know, and yeah, it almost, it's not one of those found footage films. No, but there's definitely a very realistic vibe to it. Because I think it was shot on video. It was like one of the early films to be, you know, done digitally. Digitally, right. So it has like a digital look to it. Different look, And I find myself returning to that film, and, you know, there are people I show it to that have a hard time watching it because they get creeped out by it. Yeah, I will watch it again. It's definitely sparked my interest to see it once again. It's creepy. It's very creepy. I guess that's what the best word to describe it is. It's very creepy. Anytime you have, I think, insane, you know, people, some sort of asylum setting, abuse going on. Oh yeah, it's automatically at an extra creep level, in my opinion. Yeah, it just adds like another level of creepiness to it. So that's my number 8. Excellent. This will bring me to my number 7, the movie that we've
talked about, but not actually had an episode about, 1972's Wes Craven debut, The Last House on the Left. Another movie that I am a very, very big fan of. I own soundtracks. I own books about it. I've read so much about this movie. My next move is to go seek out the places where it was even shot. That's how much I like this movie. It is the debut from a young Wes Craven and is produced by Sean S. Cunningham, who went on to direct the first Friday the 13th. You could say it is definitely inspired by the 1960s Swedish film The Virgin Spring, the Ingmar Bergman movie, which is a tale of, well, you could say rape and revenge. That's one of the earliest rape and revenge movies. But Last House on the Left, of course, being in 1972 in America and not in Sweden back in the old days, has this very gritty vibe, very New York-y kind of beginning, 70s, druggy, post-Manson vibe. Would you agree?
Absolutely, and David Hess is also
Manson-esque.
Manson-esque.
Absolutely.
And one of the meanest looking dudes I've ever seen. Man.
Yeah, in film history, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the man was a freaking musician. He co-wrote All Shook Up by Elvis Presley, co-wrote songs for Pat Boone, co-wrote the Speedy Gonzales theme. The man has done quite a few things musically way before he even acted in this movie, which was his first movie, actually.
Well, you recently turned me on to his music.
Yes.
I was aware of his musical career, but I'd never actually heard any of the material until you turned me on to it.
He was like a pop singer. He started out as almost like an Elvis clone, and his stylistically his sound kind of changed with the times. But by the time he had made this movie and a few other subsequent movies, he kind of put the music on the back burner. But the man was a lifelong musician and a lifelong actor.
Wasn't there an interesting story about how he actually got the role?
Yes, there is an interesting story about how he got the role. His friend was auditioning for the movie, Mr. Martin Kove, who, as many know from the Karate Kid, which is this year's the 30th anniversary of the Karate Kid. Martin Kove is the karate instructor at the Cobra Kai Karate Academy. He's, the main, for all intents and purposes, the bad guy of the Karate Kid.
Guy, yeah.
Well, young Martin Kove's sister was dating David Hess at the time. And, struggling actors, he was a struggling actor in New York. And he had asked David Hess to come along with him on an audition in Manhattan. And it was a summer day. And, it was like, oh, what kind of movie? Oh, it's going to be like this horror movie, whatever. I'm trying to audition to get a role in it, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you come with me? And David Hess comes with him. But before they leave, he tells David Hess, why don't you, kind of bulk up to see if you can get the role of one of these bad guys, look like, kind of crazy and kind of mean and whatnot. And he's like, oh, okay, sure. He basically follows whatever Martin Kove is telling him to do. And by the time they get there into Midtown Manhattan in the middle of the summer, he's got sweat pouring out of him, and apparently he looks like a deranged lunatic by the time they reach the audition in Manhattan. And, well, as history would have it, Martin Kove gets the role of the police officer, who is kind of the comic relief of the movie Last House on the Left, in a way. And David Hess gets the main role as the main bad guy of the film. Apparently, Sean Cunningham and Wes Craven, just from the moment they saw him, they were like, who the hell is this guy? Because of his presence and his vibe. So I guess you could say presence and vibe goes a long way.
Yeah, he's got a face made for horror, made for evil. That guy.
Absolutely. And, of course, he went on to star in subsequent, edgy horror movies like House on the Edge of the Park and Hitchhike. He had a small role in Swamp Thing. And he also did many movies in Italy, actually, as well. He's in Cut and Run, the Deodato film from the mid-'80s. But getting back to Last House on the Left, it's a rape revenge movie, but I just feel like, although it's not the first of its kind, I feel like it, again, helped kind of kick off the new era of really kind of out there, over-the-top horror.
Yeah, absolutely,
Realistic horror.
Realistic horror, because there's absolutely no supernatural element in that.
No, not at all. I mean, the bad guys are David Hess, Fred Lincoln, who plays Weasel, who went on to have a tremendous career in porn and was already actually in porn by the time he was doing Last House on the Left. F.J. Lincoln, look up that name. He's directed, 500 porno films, and he also acted in quite a few. And the female bad guy, Jeremy Rain, who is now Jeremy Dreyfuss, Richard Dreyfuss's wife, she was pretty amazing in this movie as well, actually.
You shitting me? That's her.
Yes, that is Richard. She's one of my Facebook friends. Yes, Jeremy Dreyfuss. Yeah, she's a big animal rights person.
Huh.
And she posts great old pictures of her time in this movie.
Huh.
But the interesting thing is that the two stars of this movie who were the victims, so to speak, Sandra Cassell as Marie Collingwood and Lucy Grantham as Phyllis Stone, don't have as much as a happy memory of this movie as some of the other actors do. Lucy Grantham definitely maybe a little more, but Sandra Cassell, who played Marie Collingwood, the main girl who gets raped in the film, almost kind of disappeared off the face of the earth, actually. I believe she is still alive, but she does not talk about her time in this film, which is kind of sad.
Trauma.
But it could be. I mean, look, watch the movie for yourself. You might be traumatized. It is not an easy watch. I do feel like over the years, since it is 1972, and there's definitely some campy, goofy aspects to the movie, let's be honest, it still packs quite a punch. And you're never used to watching a girl get raped and girls get stabbed. But for me, this movie, because of its age and the reverence I have for it, the punch it packs isn't so much so that it makes me never want to watch the movie again. You know what I'm saying? To me, this was not a one-time and never see again movie. But for a lot of people, I've learned this is one of those movies, actually. That this is a movie like, say, Martyrs and Irreversible, where it's like, and Cannibal Holocaust, where, no, I'm good. I don't want to see that movie again. But I don't know. I don't think this movie should be lumped in with that at all. I don't know. What do you think?
No, just even to watch David Hess act.
Exactly.
I enjoyed that guy so much. And he's him and like Joe Spinell, I think, are like some of the great actors.
David Hess unfortunately passed away 3 years ago yesterday, October 7th, 2011, at the age of 75 in his home in California. And I got to meet him twice, actually. I was at Chiller conventions. He was always really cool. I even met two of his sons who were with him. And an interesting side note, in the movie Cabin Fever, at the end, you hear The Road Leads to Nowhere, which is the theme from Last House on the Left, but it's done by David Hess's two sons, recording it and singing it. So that's on the soundtrack of Cabin Fever. And that was Mr. Loki running around. Mrs. Loki, yes.
Miss Loki.
Miss Loki, yes, that's right. She's not married. No.
She's single.
She's very single and crazy, yes. But yeah, the other names he went by, in the music career were David Dante and David Hill. And I believe Elvis Presley's All Shook Up, the co-writing credit is under Hill, David Hill. So.
You want something funny about the name Dave Hill?
Yes.
On the last... We did a tour in June with that band Pelican, right? Mm-hmm. And I was reading some press, and I think it was like a Portland magazine, Portland newspaper, and they credited me as Dave Hill.
All right, cool. That's your other name.
I thought that was funny.
Have you ever been referred to as Mike Toombs? Have you ever been referred to as Mike Toombs? That's gotta be no. That's interesting.
I know that was a big thing. They used to not so much anymore these days.
Right.
But back in the 90s, I think people would like insert whatever band or thing you were doing as your last name.
As your
Mike
last name.
Human,
That's true. Yes, some stick. Yep.
Never Mike Toombs.
Never Mike Toombs. Interesting. Well, it's because you already have a short last name.
Yeah, it's like it makes my last name longer, actually.
That's true.
Last House on the Left. One of the things, once again, like the fact that all of the real heavy scenes take place in the daylight too.
Yes, that is true. In daylight and sunny, beautiful days, actually. Yeah,
that makes a really big impact on me because there's not some dreary setting. Mm-hmm. It's a sunny day. It's nice. It's like outside the city. It's in the country. Mm-hmm. There's like a beautiful like forest and everything.
Yeah, I mean it's a very young Wes Craven, a young Sean Cunningham, and Wes Craven had prior done some, not porn, but kind of porn before this. This was his first, real movie, you could say. But But this movie underwent several changes. The movie was called Krug and Company. The movie was called Sex Crime of the Century. And then it ended up with the name Last House on the Left. And
that's a good name.
Oh, that is a great name. Yes.
Yeah.
And as we all know, people would take that name and run with it over the years for the movies that were kind of sort of like Last House on the Left. House on the Edge of the Park, Last House on the Beach, Last House on Dead End Street, etc., etc.
Yeah. I think it's always interesting to me when the porn horror connection is made.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's funny how closely those two worlds are, and some guy might not have like a successful career. He may, at some point, there's like he's done something. His attempt at being like legit is like doing an exploitation film or some like horror film, but then he just like ends up doing porn, having a career as a porno actor.
Wild, yeah. I mean, Fred Lincoln. I'm telling you, if you were to Google his porn career, it is endless. Mostly behind the camera, but also some in front of the camera as well.
Back then, you can get away with not having like ripped abs too.
Oh yeah, these were very normal, regular dudes. Exactly. I mean, maybe their thing was that they were slightly more endowed than the average man, but the rest of their bodies were definitely average Joe.
Yeah. The heyday of porn.
Yes. So my number 7, Last House on the Left.
My number 7 is the 1997 Event Horizon.
Ah, great movie.
Yeah. Paul Anderson, the director of Mortal Kombat, did that one. Mm-hmm. It's a horror sci-fi film.
Yes.
It takes place
horror
in outer
sci-fi,
space.
like Alien, etc.
Yeah, like Alien. It's got Lawrence Fishburne's in it and Sam Neill, who's always, Sam Neill is tremendous.
Creepy guy. I love him.
Yeah.
He can always put in a nice performance.
And Sam Neill was, he also did a great job in The Mouth of Madness, and great movie, and
also in I believe Omen 3.
Yeah, Omen 3.
Omen 3. Yep. Nice horror pedigree.
This came out in the 90s when horror was kind of dead, actually.
97? Oh, absolutely. I can't even think of much else that was good in 97 except for this.
Yeah, so I think this sort of, because that wasn't really the climate, like people didn't really care about it, the movie kind of failed, like, at the box office and also critically.
I tell you what, what was popular in 97 horror? Scream 2. So there you go. That tells you where the horror scene was at in 97.
Yeah. But once again, if you haven't seen this movie, you're not familiar with the plot. It's basically a possession film, really,
on a ship,
on a spaceship. Yeah. There's the Event Horizon was like a spaceship that Sam Neill's wife, or no, Sam Neill actually himself had designed it. Like he's some sort of engineer, and had this experimental warp drive. So it goes out on its maiden voyage, hits the warp drive, and then just disappears. And then at some point later, this ship reappears. So they, mobilize Lawrence Fishburne and company, this like crew of sort of space recovery, guys, specialists. Right. So Sam Neill goes along with them. They, warp drive out to where the ship is. And then they find out that ship has been very, very, far away.
Yeah.
There's like, once again, the idea of hell is sort of
it's haunted.
Around. It's haunted. It got shot into some hyperspace, some other realm, some realm of like pure chaos. And then when it came back, there was like a presence that came with it. The thing that I find that was really funny about that movie was the warp drive itself, like the actual drive, looked like this totally like gothic, it's got like spikes on it or something.
I need to see that again, actually. I did enjoy that movie. I saw it in the theater.
Really?
Yes, I did.
I saw that on VHS.
On a date. It was nice, yes.
Right on. Originally the cut was 130 minutes long, but the sort of production types, the suits, were so unnerved by the violence.
Yes, it gets pretty intense, which is one of the reasons it's a cool movie, actually.
That they ended up cutting a lot of that out. And then there was, recently, a few years ago, a DVD came out with not a restored version, but those deleted scenes were available as extras.
Okay, nice.
Unfortunately, the quality, because they were actually taken from like videotape.
Oh, okay. I hate when that happens.
There's no legit master of any of that stuff
that sucks.
anywhere. So because they never archived it because the movie failed and no one
they
cared
never
about
intended
it.
to. Right.
So it never really got, and it never will apparently get a legitimate,
That's a damn shame.
or director's cut. You know what I mean?
I do enjoy that movie, and it's funny. Your top 10s are making me. Two of your top 10s, I do want to revisit Session 9, and of course Event Horizon.
Yeah, definitely. In my opinion, that movie, though I'm not a big fan of remakes, I kind of wouldn't mind seeing that movie being remade.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been about 17 years or so. I mean, why not? Yeah. I mean, but we're winding into the midway point, whereas we have a similar title, me and Mike Hill. My number 6 is the original Dawn of the Dead from 1979, George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Yes. Interesting side note, it came out in Italy before it came out in America. It came out in Italy in September of 78, as of course we know Zombie, Z-O-M-B-I, and not Dawn of the Dead. And then in America, it came out in April 20th, 1979, and it grossed $55 million. What can I say about this movie? It's 10 years after Romero's first film. 10 years after Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
68 to 78. A lot has happened in America. It's post-Vietnam landscape. And it is also in the midst of the suburbia explosion, in the midst of the beginning of the shopping mall culture. And of course, like most of George Romero's movies, there is something else there.
Social commentary.
There's a social commentary, and this movie definitely has it. There's so many great things about this damn movie. I mean, the four characters themselves, the four actors, David Emge, Ken Foree, Scott Reiner, Galen Ross, are all good characters. You're all rooting for all four of these people trapped in the damn mall. The music, it's funny because in Italy, you got the full Goblin score, which is fantastic. In America, you got mainly library music, which also I thought was pretty fantastic, though, in its own way. It kind of fit the movie. There's literally 3 different cuts of this film. The one most Americans saw is the American, Dawn of the Dead, George Romero's cut from 79, which did not include. I'm having a little trouble remembering if it was none of the Goblin music or only some of the Goblin music. But I tell you, this, George Romero movies like this put Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on the map.
Yeah.
After this movie, everybody wanted to visit the Monroeville Mall, where most of the the filming took place, where you can still visit it today. There is a plaque in the Monroeville Mall, from what I understand, that commemorates this movie. I heard it's really small, though. It's kind of like messed up. And I also heard that there was some type of zombie gift shop that may or may not be open anymore or whatever. But if you ask me, I mean, this is an iconic film, iconic movie poster, iconic score, iconic director. It's just a movie that once it's on, I watch it to its completion every time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Great movie to watch around Halloween time, I also think. Might be, I don't know if it's Romero's best movie, but it's definitely one of his best movies.
Yeah.
I do love Day of the Dead, I must say, and I love Night of the Living Dead. But this one, Dawn, is my favorite of the 3.
Day of the Dead is my second favorite of the 3. And it is definitely in my top 20.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's bleaker.
And
it's more violent, actually.
Yeah, it's more violent. It's like claustrophobic. Mm-hmm. And the concept of the humans, like just not being able to hang.
Yeah, no, they're all below ground now. There's no more kind of sunny outdoors anymore. There's no more, you can't do anything out above ground anymore, apparently. Yeah.
Not
really
in their
bad.
sector of the world, at least.
Exactly. So, number 6, Dawn of the Dead.
My number 6 is The Evil Dead by Sam Raimi.
Ah, fantastic. A top 20 movie for me.
Yeah. I mean, that one, some of the things that I find the most endearing about it is the sort of DIY aspect of it.
Yes. Took several years to make it.
Yeah.
They made it really slow, all the, borrowed money, and it was a team effort, and it's an amazing movie. It's one of the greatest independent movies ever, in my opinion, too.
Yeah.
Along with Halloween.
you see Bruce Campbell, who's like an incredibly charismatic guy, and that was like his entry level into the world of acting.
With the movie made with his friends, Rob Tapper and Sam Raimi. Yeah.
And that's what I like about it. It just has this like down home like vibe to it, and I think that I respond to that sort of like DIY aesthetic.
Absolutely.
And also, it was fucking scary, man.
Yeah, and it's super scary, and the camera work, the music, the special effects, the vibe. Dripping with atmosphere and vibe. It is. It's a freaking fantastic movie. Yeah. I mean, geez.
And I remember, being a kid, seeing this movie on VHS at my parents' house during the day. And it was like around, I think it was like, you remember back in high school, you get like that week off between Christmas and New Year's?
Yes.
So it was one of those things where I was home and I invited one of my friends over to watch it. And, he was like this, big, athletic sort of dude, friend of mine. We played sports together and all this shit. And then he was afraid to walk home.
Wow.
Like he lived, a few blocks away, but he was like nervous. Like and it was the middle of the day. That's how what an impact this film made on this guy. And it scared the hell out of me too. I thought,
Absolutely.
But it holds up. You look back on it and it's just creepy, And what do you think of the remake? Have you seen the remake?
I love the remake. I saw it in the theater last year. You did not see it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I enjoyed it very much. Definitely did not suck. Very scary. Had a very great kind of update of that vibe and atmosphere. No, I have really almost nothing bad to say about the remake.
No, the remake is good. The thing, it's like in the 80s, you could have some dark humor in horror films, which Evil Dead has plenty of that.
It does.
In this day and age, your horror has to be a little bit grimmer and a little bit.
And it
more
was.
intense.
There was really no humor in this remake. No,
it's like you pull
no
all the
comic
humor
relief
out of it, and then they tweaked the storyline.
Yeah, maybe some of the performances weren't so great of some of the ancillary characters, but overall, the main girl whose name escapes me, the redhead. She was pretty freaking fantastic, I thought. I mean, she did a great job. As a matter of fact, I think I read somewhere that she's never doing a horror movie ever again because of this movie. So, if take that for what it's worth, But, no, I mean, the original Evil Dead, I have a very nice clamshell VHS from Anchor Bay signed by Campbell and the three girls. That no one can have.
I have that like skin book.
Oh yeah, I have that one too. Yeah, I have that.
It's like it looks so you kind of.
It's kind of falling apart now. Yeah, it's not
falling apart. Didn't hold up.
I have 1 and 2, the skin book. Yes,
they look cool though.
They do look cool.
Necronomicon version.
Necronomicon version. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I got that on Fifth Avenue in Park Slope. There was like a electronics store that sold DVDs. And they had it for like $5 in there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Why not?
So,
well, this will bring me to my number 5, a movie we discussed at length last week, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. What can you say? Fantastic movie, gritty, brutal, not that bloody, but super intense, super scary. I thought we did a great podcast about it last time. I really did not like the revamps of the 2000s at all. I enjoy the part 2, but the original 1974 Tobe Hooper classic is definitely, to me, one of the greatest horror movies ever made, which is why it rests at my number 5.
It's actually my number 4.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, so it's up there on my list too. My number 5 is Alien.
Excellent.
Scott, 1978. So many great things about that movie, not the least of which is H.R. Geiger's, the late H.R. Geiger's input on the set design and the, design of the creature and all that sort of stuff. And that visual component that he added to the film, I think, is probably like half of the whole thing, for me.
I read something today in one of these kind of free magazine things where they interviewed Sigourney Weaver because it's the 35th anniversary of Alien, and she said to this day she remembers sitting down and looking at those drawings, those original sketchings, and she said that has never left her head, that moment in her life, because never before had anything that looked like that been realized on the screen, and that is actually true.
It's totally true.
Yeah. And she was just blown away by it, and like scared and excited at the same time.
Yeah. H.R. Geiger, like all of his artwork has that. It's like nothing looks like anything that he's ever done.
Nope.
And the film is definitely a direct link.
Oh,
to
absolutely.
That sort of like manifestation of like his vision with like this whole, everything is sort of organic looking, and there's machine and organic parts all sort of melded together. And,
biomechanical.
Yeah, biomechanics.
Love it.
But also, it's got a great cast. You got Tom Skerritt. You got Sigourney Weaver. You got Yaphet Kotto.
Yep. Everyone in it is great. Everyone gives a great performance.
Yaphet Kotto, also the name of my favorite emo band from the 90s.
No, it's not.
Yeah, do you know
there was a band, Yaphet? There really was.
Awesome,
oh my God. Yeah. I did not know that.
John Hurt and Harry Dean Stanton.
That's right. Yeah. And everybody's aces in the movie too, I think. I mean, it's sci-fi horror to me is still horror, even though it's half sci-fi. And it is one of the greatest horror movies of all time, without question. And so Aliens could also be argued as one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, you get John Carpenter involved in that.
Sorry,
Cameron.
James Cameron. Yeah. And it upped up the Aliens ante by 50 million. So, it was it was insane. I mean, now I want to watch Alien 1 and 2 again. God damn it.
I have them all, so.
I have to, well, there are these beautiful new Blu-rays of them, but I have the DVD box set from about 8 or 9 years ago, which still holds up nicely. Unless, sometimes you don't want your movies to look too clean.
Yeah. I'm a fan of that. I like the grittiness of DVDs.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm fine with DVDs. I mean, I do buy Blu-rays and I enjoy Blu-rays. Yeah. But sometimes there's really nothing wrong with watching a DVD.
At the time when Alien came out, I was too young to actually... I didn't see it till many years after.
Exactly. Yeah, same here. Same here. Yeah.
But I remember reading
maybe about 5 years later.
Remember the magazine Heavy Metal?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So... there was they had started to adapt it in Heavy Metal. There was a comic adaptation of it. And that's when I first started seeing the ads for it. And I was like, man, this is
What I do remember for it as a kid was seeing, I don't know what movie we were seeing, but the trailer for Aliens. Oh my God. I saw the trailer for Alien as a kid in the theater. And there's this music and this vibe and this, the egg. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? I'm about... 7 or 8 years old, 6 or 7 years old. I can't remember the movie we were seeing at the time, but I will never forget that I did see the Alien trailer, and that scared the hell out of me.
Yeah. And once again, there's sort of perversion of the child, I mentioned this earlier in our talk, was, there's this sort of perversion of childbirth,
Yes.
Where the alien plunges this protuberance down this dude's throat, and impregnates him with this fucking creepy ass larva or whatever, and then it just erupts out of this dude's stomach, and it's that's one of the most intense scenes at the time,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to bring it to my number 4, a movie which has been discussed already. It is 1978's Halloween. That is my number 4 horror movie. I have it also tattooed on my arm. I'm a very big fan of it. Interesting thing about this movie is that it was made for $325,000. And it made $70 million, which is unbelievable. I mean, and it's funny, that number is actually probably, when you think about it, that's just the box office of what it made. That has nothing to do with VHS and DVD. This movie has probably made, I don't know, well over $300-400 million, probably in actuality, when it comes to in profits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Iconic film, iconic score. I mean, what can you say about this movie that hasn't been said before? I mean, it's an American classic film, not just a classic horror film. I just feel like it's an American classic film, period, Halloween.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It just wasn't as high on my list, though.
No, just not as high on your list.
Still top 10, man. It's not
exactly, yes. Rest in peace, Deborah Hill, by the way, producer. And it's her hands you see in the very beginning when Michael Myers is reaching for his knife, the young Michael Myers.
Yes.
The hands of the young Michael Myers are Deborah Hill's. So many people had their hands in being Michael Myers. It's not even funny.
Well, my number 4 It was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which we
yes, we have discussed it at length.
Much detail at this point.
So we're seeing, guys, you know, if you were looking for two completely different lists, I'm sorry you're not finding it, but we will. There have obviously been some differences, but we are being honest. We're giving our top 10 favorites, and that's exactly what these are. And Mike, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Hellraiser.
See? Wow, we're getting very interesting here. I mean, again, we're only a few years apart in age. We've probably had a very similar horror story kind of growing up. So there's no question that we'd have a lot of these same movies, right, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. And these are iconic films, too, that, like, I think a lot of people would agree, at least on some of these, you know?
Absolutely. Well, here's where things get a little different. We're going to go to my number 3, which is from 1977, and it is called Suspiria. Dario Argento's Suspiria. That is my number 3 film. This is a movie that I think I discovered probably in the mid-late 90s for the first time. And it is another one that if I put it on, I have to watch it all the way through. From the music, from the performances, the vibe. It is like a fairy tale, kind of like fairy tale. I don't know about in hell, but it's a fairy tale with a very strong horror bent to it. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. There's like a sort of dreamlike sort of trip going on. I mean, Argento's films in general have that, I think, where there's like the use of, well, his early films.
Yes.
Yes. Because he certainly did not, you know, maintain that later on.
No, sadly they do not.
But, you know, there's like this sort of impressionistic thing going on with the story. It's not, you know, the stories are oftentimes not very linear in his movies.
No, not at all.
There's a lot of color and a lot of, like, potential, like, I don't even know if it's symbolism, but he uses a lot of
yeah,
these, like,
he does use
symbolism.
Insects and certain close-ups and... I mean, it is like kind of like just this wild fairy tale involving witches. Like it's a ballet school in Germany that an American goes to. Jessica Harper, who's an American actress, goes to a prestigious dance academy in Germany, but she discovers it is, of course, controlled by a coven of witches. I mean, on paper, that sounds like the coolest movie ever to me. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah.
And scored by Goblin. Probably one of the most memorable of all of the like cult, you know, European horror movie themes. People know that's a Suspiria theme when they hear it. You know, those bells. Mm-hmm. Somewhat maybe inspired by Tubular Bells from Exorcist. Maybe would you say maybe somewhat a little bit?
See that, yeah.
Absolutely right. But this, of course, is the first in a series of 3 films from Dario Argento, the Three Mothers trilogy. This being the first one, and 1980's Inferno being the second, and 2007's The Mother of Tears being the third. I just feel like Suspiria to me is the quintessential Euro horror film. It's the quintessential Dario Argento film. It is a movie that is on many people's top horror movies. Even Roger Ebert liked this movie. And I believe it definitely deserves its spot. For a lot of people, some people I've read, it's their number 1 movie, actually.
Really?
But for me, it is my number 3.
Huh.
What are your thoughts on Suspiria?
I think it's great. I as far as, you know, like Argento, he's not one of my favorite filmmakers. But he's definitely a top 20 guy. Like, I have a hard time getting through a lot of his movies, you know, but I enjoy them though. It's not like I don't like him, and I appreciate them.
Yeah. But
it's like one of those things where I have to dedicate myself to watching it.
They're not easy watches. Suspiria is a, I don't know if it's a hard, it's not, I don't think it's a hard watch. It's probably to me one of his easier watches of all of his films. But some people, whatever, they don't like the dubbing or they don't like this or that. I mean, see, things like that don't really matter to me, you know, and I know if a movie is dubbed or whatever, or subtitled, etc. To me, it's all about the atmosphere and the vibe, and this movie has that beyond belief. I mean, there is so much atmosphere in this movie, so much tension, and like, what is this coven and this music? The music gets so loud, it just kind of shakes the hell out of you in this movie, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. A movie that you and I both saw together, Lords of Salem,
Yes,
is pretty heavily influenced. I think.
Absolutely. It was definitely Zombies' attempt or Zombies' interpretation of a European horror film. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And which is one of the reasons why so many people seem to hate it. I was attacked on Facebook for Lords of Salem not too long ago. People could not believe that I actually liked it.
I thought it's like the only film of his I actually enjoyed all the way through.
And you know what? I've heard other people say that. I've heard other reviewers say that it's his best movie.
Yeah.
To me, his best movie is Devil's Rejects, but it's so funny, the division with Lords of Salem. It's just very interesting. But yeah, I mean, why not have an American director try their hand at something that's a little different and maybe a little more European, Italian influenced? I'd like to see more of that. I mean, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, I think that's the only movie that Zombie succeeded in, because I'm not a fan of his work. Mm-hmm. You know, Halloween, none of that stuff. However, his brother, I think I mentioned his brother, Death Valley, MTV.
Yes, you mentioned that. Yeah.
Which, like, it's a real travesty that Rob Zombie gets to make all these movies, and this kid, his brother, can't seem to keep funding going for his series. And the series is great, man. It's got, like, Brian Callen's in it. Some other.
It's one of those things that I need to like check out. And
it was on Netflix, and they might have taken it down. But yeah, it's like one of these obscure things, and actually, I would have never known about it. It was the fact that it was on MTV is ridiculous. The fact that was a waste. That was someone being like, "We don't care about your film, whether your series, and we don't care if it succeeds or not." It should have been on, some of another network, and I don't see what the logic was of MTV putting it on. So my number 2 is John Carpenter's remake of The Thing.
Excellent movie.
1982.
Yep.
And I'm sure most people have seen that. It's a fucking great movie.
It is a great movie, and it's funny. It came out in June of '82, and that was one of its many drawbacks, because it was a winter film. Yeah. It should have come out in the winter or either Halloween. The movie actually bombed, and and the critics didn't like it either. What happened with that movie is what is later on. It became like this beloved, jocked movie and re-reviewed film. The initial reviews on that movie, if you go back and see them, they'll make your head explode.
I find that so hard to believe. I think I saw the Siskel and Ebert review of that movie, and I think it was actually favorable.
Theirs is favorable, but a lot of people didn't get it. A lot of people did not get the isolation. They didn't. It definitely did not make a lot of money initially. It became big on home video, actually. The Thing. I remember. I've read about that recently. When they had the 30th in 2012, there was the 30th anniversary articles about The Thing. I remember reading, and they were saying things about how it was kind of a bomb initially, which is unbelievable to think, but it was. I mean, I was 9 when it came out. I didn't see it till later on. So
yeah, so I obviously saw it on home video.
Yeah.
Young dude. But once again, it's got a great cast. You got Kurt Russell is that fucking guy. You know what I mean? He's amazing. You got Keith David, the black guy who had like that 10-minute fight in They Live.
In They Live, yes.
Yeah. Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, that's right.
No chicks in this movie.
There are no women in this movie. That is
dudes.
correct. Yes. It's funny, I've used that as a trivia question. What is there none of in The Thing? So people never get it.
and that adds to the isolation.
Yep.
Boredom, desolate vibe to the whole thing.
More great music from John Carpenter in the movie.
And Ennio Morricone, too.
That's right. Yeah. He does have... That's right. I forgot about that.
And for those of you who don't know, the movie was actually based on another film.
It is a remake, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Technically, it's a remake.
Mm-hmm. From the 50s, right?
Yeah, from the 50s, 1951. The Thing from another world. Which
is one of the movies the kids are watching in Halloween, I believe. One of the scenes, yes. Mm-hmm.
And,
God, I know.
It's based on a novella by John W. Campbell Jr. called Who Goes There?
Oh, wow.
And in my opinion, this is Carpenter's greatest film.
You know what? That could be true in a lot of ways. Yeah.
I mean, he's a genius in my opinion too.
Yeah.
I think this is the pinnacle of everything he's done so far.
He had a lot of home runs from Halloween onward, and this is one of them. You know, he had a lot of really cool, interesting movies in his early career.
Carpenter considered this to be part one of what he calls the Apocalypse trilogy, which includes Prince of Darkness and In the Mouth of Madness.
Wow, I never knew that. And those movies are years apart.
Yep. But it's not so much like there's any kind of
linear
narrative.
Okay, right.
Apparently, in his mind, he wanted to put together 3 films that had to do with like a potential apocalypse. So that was interesting.
That is interesting. Well, my number 2 is 1973's The Exorcist from William Friedkin. I gotta tell you, sometimes when non-horror dudes make horror movies, those movies turn out to be some freaking movies, huh?
I agree.
Polanski, Friedkin, Kubrick. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. The Exorcist, December 26, 1973. The movie that scared the bejesus out of everybody at Christmas time going to the movie theater. People running out of the theaters. People throwing up. People losing their minds. One of the greatest possession movies ever. Would you agree?
Oh, yes. It's spawned.
So many ripoffs, so many. And thank you to the Hollywood gods, you have not remade this movie. But then again, there have been so many that have been just like it.
It might as well have been
remade. It might as well have been remade.
Yeah.
But the actual story of Reagan has not been remade, thankfully. Huge influence on popular culture, huge influence on movies in general. Another one of the early blockbusters, a little before Jaws. They say Jaws was the first blockbuster, the first summer blockbuster. This movie was one of the first blockbusters, period. It was made for $12 million in 1972. That's a lot of money in 1972. Yeah. This movie took a very long time to make. There was a lot of problems with it.
There was a lot of locations in
it,
too, you know.
And guess what it made at the box office? $441,071,071. Jesus Christ. I'm going to say, though, that number may include the 2000 remember they reissued it? Remember?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what that number includes.
That had the 2000 reissue had that.
It made money. No, it did. I saw it in the theater. That was fun.
In the theater,
that was a lot of fun. I'm just checking something really quick because I do think that's what this. Yeah, I believe it does. But anyway, man, I am obsessed with this movie. The Pazuzu demon. I mean, the movie starts in the Middle East. How cool is that? Like 1973. Unfreaking believable. The sequels, well, yeah, let's not even, I mean, Exorcist 2 is a terrible movie.
Yeah.
Exorcist 3 is a great movie, which should have really been called Exorcist 2. But, I mean, yeah, its success inspired a string of possession-related films worldwide. One of the first rip-offs of this movie was the movie Beyond the Door in 1974, the Italian movie, which I've actually never seen. Beyond the Door. I mean, there was the blaxploitation version of it called Abby. There was a comedy version of it, Repossessed, of course, which Linda Blair was in, parodied in the Scary Movie movies. I mean, all the crazy things that went on the set. I mean, the performances. Let's be honest. I mean, as a child actor, friggin'... I'm sorry. She's pretty great, let's be honest. Why is her name escaping me right now? Linda Blair. Sorry about that, everybody. Gave the performance of her lifetime, I guess you could also say, you know? Max von Sydow, Ellen Burstyn, Jason Miller all gave amazing performances in this movie. It almost is my number 1, but it's not. It's my number 2.
It's a great movie. I just, for me, you know, I think it's amazing, but it just isn't in my top 10.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. It is not in your top 10. That's
interesting. Fun fact is I actually saw this in the movie, in a drive-in with my parents.
Wow.
When I was like a really, really young kid.
Probably too young. Wow. Damn. That's crazy.
It was like, some may say that was irresponsible on my parents to bring a child.
My dad took me and my brothers to see every single Eddie Murphy sex comedy of the early 80s, and that was probably irresponsible too, but hey, what are you going to do? You know.
Yeah, I remember really being was still vividly remembering laying in the back seat and hearing like the voice of the possessed Reagan, you know, and that being really intense on me as a young kid. Maybe that explains a lot about me. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But based on the William Peter Blatty novel, which is a great novel, the movie is like Rosemary's Baby. The novel and the movie are pretty much the exact same thing, which is kind of cool. But definitely check out the book while you can, and even check out the book's sequel, Legion, by William Peter Blatty, which is also pretty great.
I gotta read those.
Yes, very cool books. And what is your number 2, Mike?
My number 2 is The Thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're number 1. Oh my God. See, getting a little caught up here.
Yeah.
Which leads you to your number 1.
My number 1 is Night of the Living Dead by George Romero.
Ah, yes.
1968.
The grandfather of modern horror films.
Yeah.
That's right. Absolutely.
I mean, that, you know, some people might say it's a cop-out because, oh yeah, well, what else would it be? You know what I mean? Like,
no, not necessarily.
But I really do find myself going back to that film, like, over and over again. I watch it regularly, you know, and the zombie genre is, like, one of my favorite genre, probably my favorite horror genre. And that introduced to us the concept of the modern zombie, you know? Prior to that, zombies were like these voodoo creatures.
Yes.
You know?
And they definitely didn't have there was no American spin, really.
No,
not at all.
Not at all. You know, they certainly didn't eat human flesh. You know, there was
no.
None of that. And, you know, the sort of cannibalistic Living Dead was what came directly from this film.
No, absolutely. I mean, also, it's black and white film when it probably could have been in color because it was 1968. I love the fact that it's in black and white.
Yeah. Now someone's going to prove me wrong by saying that they're going to come up with like some other film that was like out like 6 months earlier.
I think all the prior zombie movies dealt with jungle stuff, dealt with voodoo stuff. I'm almost 100% positive that this was the first one that dealt with city, suburban, urban, like that dealt with like, you know, Pittsburgh, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, a major, semi-major city dealing with a zombie outbreak. Absolutely. I believe this is the first one.
What I thought was scarier than the zombies, you know, and this is like a recurring theme in these films, is just the interaction amongst all the people. You know, like that guy that wanted to stay in the basement, you know, it's safe down there.
Yeah, stay down.
You know, just, I'm like, no, don't do that, you know, or, you know, trying to get the truck at the gas station, you know, and the guy, like, blows it and, you know, lights himself on fire, and then he gets eaten by a zombie. You know, the whole thing, man.
The whole thing falls apart. I love it. And it's funny because everyone has kind of ripped off Night of the Living Dead. Like, it's like anything related to zombies in the slightest is basically in the shadow of that movie.
Yeah. You know, and, you know, there's like a, you know, sort of typical with Romero's films, there's, you know, social commentary. You know,
race relations, sure.
As a black character,
yeah.
And it's just it's a classic film, man. It looks great and it holds up. Like you can watch it today. I can watch it and right now and be completely into it. You know.
Well, brings it to my number 1, and this has been my number 1 for a long time, and it is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Nice.
Released in May of 1980. This is a movie that the moment it starts, I am scared. The second you hear those first notes of the Wendy Carlos score, you just see that scenery. You know something is wrong. You know something horrible is on the horizon. And even when the three of them, the family's in the car, it's just something is not right. And that's what I feel like. Stanley Kubrick was the master at that, you know. Even going back to like Lolita, like there's just this vibe there that something is not right and something is going to be going horribly wrong. I mean, but that first like crane shot of the car driving through the mountains, I don't know, man. There's just something about it. And Jack Nicholson's performance, Shelley Duvall's performance, the performance of Daniel Lloyd, who never made a movie ever again, which makes the movie even greater, actually. He's a teacher somewhere in the Midwest. I mean, even Scatman Crothers put in a great performance. I mean, the stories you hear about this movie, about how Nicholson and Kubrick kind of were real jerks to Shelley Duvall throughout the movie to get this tortured performance out of her. Well, it worked. It's quite a tortured performance out of her. Jack Nicholson was method acting the whole time. He was in character almost the whole time. I mean, the isolation you feel, the dread, the music, it's a perfect horror movie. And I love the fact that, yeah, it's based on a Stephen King book, it is a great book, The Shining. But Stanley Kubrick basically took that book and threw it over his shoulder.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. He just did his
and
own
I
thing.
Love that about him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's probably why Stephen King doesn't like the film.
Yes. And you know what? Stephen King's opinion on it has slightly loosened up a little. He still doesn't, I don't think he really likes it that much, but he's slightly loosened up on it because I think Stanley Kubrick made a better product out of that source material. Made something scarier. The book is scary, do not get me wrong, but the movie, just the whole thing, there's no boring scenes, there's no boring character explanations. There's no explanation. See, that's the thing that Stephen King didn't like, and that's what some people don't like about the movie. There's really no explanations for anything in the movie.
No.
But I like that about the movie. It's a nightmare. You're trapped in this hotel. You're trapped in this world. It's like The Beyond, okay, which is a top 20 movie of mine. It's like that ending. You're trapped in like that hell. You know what I'm saying? And throughout the whole Beyond, there's a lot of things that make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's all these crazy, like set pieces of horror and terror, which The Shining is kind of like that. I mean, there's definitely a story to it, you know. But he definitely kind of took the book and just probably threw it in the pail. I mean, it's just unbelievable what he did with that book.
Yeah, I think The Shining's definitely a top 20 of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, it's like, what's always creepy is when you're living in a place that's too big for just one or two people or a handful of people. Like there's three people as the husband and wife and the boy. Mm-hmm. But they're living in this, like, it's winter time.
Tremendous hotel, yes. Mm-hmm.
And, snowed in.
Yeah.
And there's something just creepy about that.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
But
the music made it creepy. The way it was filmed, the look made it creepy. I mean, now there's a documentary about all the kooks theories about it. I mean, it's just one of those one of a kind movies, and it'll always be my number one. That will not change.
Yeah, it's solid.
It still scares me.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson's performance there was great, and I just like the little nuggets of character development that go on when just through Shelley Duvall's character when she's talking about how he broke his son's arm.
Yeah, and,
absolutely. He was drinking. Or it gets revealed in this nonchalant way, and then you start picking up that this guy's not really such a good guy.
Yeah, exactly. No, not at all. He's insane.
And just little things he does when he rolls his eyes at certain times, and that's before the possession part of it actually happens.
Yeah, before he's quote unquote really crazy. He's a little crazy.
Yeah,
he's a little
unhinged
odd.
a little bit.
He is a little
He's like
unhinged.
Recovering alcoholic.
Exactly. That's what we're learning.
And they don't spell it out for you really.
No.
They just sort of like conversationally reveal it. And that's what I dig about the movie. That's like the way they crafted that into the story. I thought was great.
Well, we told ourselves we would throw out some honorable mentions here.
Yeah.
And two of my honorable mentions are in Mike's top 10. One is Alien and one is The Thing. Two fantastic movies.
Yeah.
Another honorable mention for me would be Cannibal Holocaust, a movie that some people, it's kind of a love it or hate it kind of movie, but it is an undeniable, artistic, tour de force film, Cannibal Holocaust. If you've never seen it, strap in and see it. Another honorable mention would be American Werewolf in London, which is in the top 20. I absolutely adore the movie.
Yep.
And a modern honorable mention would be the French 2007 film Inside,
Yes.
which some people have likened to Halloween in some ways. About how there's this intruder, you don't know who he, she, is, why they want to kill. You know what I'm saying? What's driving them? There's a Halloween bend to Inside, and I think it's really cool.
I wouldn't have come to that on my own though, but yeah, I could see it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Some of my honorable mentions is Martyrs by the Pascal Laugier 2008 film, which that's a movie. I own it, but I feel like I only needed to see it once.
I may watch it again.
Yeah.
I look at it in the collection and I go,
Like someday I gotta watch it.
I'm gonna have to watch it again. Yeah, it's a hard watch. It's definitely, I think, a harder watch than Cannibal Holocaust, even with the real animal killings in it.
Yeah.
It's just so over the top and so like I can't even really put into words the ending of Martyrs. But
the
anyway.
ending is just dark. You know, it's, I mean, basically, for those of you who haven't seen it, you know, it's a French film, it's foreign, and, you know, obviously a redundancy there, but it came out, like, around the time of, like, Inside and Frontiers, and there was, like, this sort of attention in France on new horror.
Right, in the mid-late 2000s.
You know, people may lump Gaspar Noé in there for extreme French films.
And the movie Calvaire.
Calvaire, which is Belgian, really, but, you know, but still part of that same
high
sort
tension
of trip. Yeah, high tension.
Yep.
But it really, the whole point of this film is there is a, you know, secret society that's trying to, like, find out about the afterlife. They're obsessed with death and, like, the experience of dying and moving into the other, what other possible realm exists beyond life. So, you know, they go into this whole torture thing, you know, and then the ending of the film is like this poor girl who they've been, like, filleted and brought so close to death, basically, you know, tells her there's nothing, you know, there's nothing there, and then
God,
like,
and
the fucking mastermind kills herself. You know? It's just so bleak.
I know.
You know, it's like,
now that you've just said it, I probably won't even watch it.
It's like, but if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it, just for the darkness of that movie.
May wreck a few days, but hey, you know, you'll be all right.
You know,
you'll be all right.
Like, definitely do something nice for yourself after that. You know, like, go out, have a nice meal.
There you go.
Spend some time
celebrate
with
life.
friends.
Celebrate life after it. Yes.
You know, don't do this on a night where you're by yourself
or in a horrible mood
or in a bad mood. Like, don't do that. You know, definitely see it when you can get the comfort of someone else to be with you.
Thank you. Yes, very good idea.
Yeah. Another one of mine is another foreign film, Let the Right One In.
Great movie.
You know, Tomas Alfredson, 2008.
And equally great, Let Me In. I'm sorry, I think the American one is equally great.
I enjoyed it, but I still love the original.
The original is better. It is a better movie.
And something that almost made my top 10 was Della Morte dell'Amore, a.k.a. Cemetery Man, by Michele Salvi, 1994.
A fantastic movie.
Stars
one of the only good 90s horror movies.
Yeah, you know. Rupert Everett is in it as the engineer, and the just incredible. I'm not even going to say insatiable. The incredible Anna Falchi.
Anna Falchi's pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah. Zombies, boobs, and like
graveyards, darkness, dark humor. Yep. Very cool movie. I need to revisit it myself. I own it.
Yeah. You know, based on the Dylan Dog, you know,
Italian serial. Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
And but I remember I bought this. Remember, like, back in the 90s, there was like these like video clubs where you can join and they basically bootleg you videotapes.
Right, yes.
You know, it's like, oh yeah, it's like a Blu-ray, you know, laser disc.
Yes, versions,
You know, and then they would like, oh yeah, we dubbed this off the laser disc, and you're joining a club of but we're doing this. There is some loophole,
right,
where they were some sketchy loophole where they're allowed to like do this bootleg operation without getting busted, or eventually they probably did. But this is something I bought just from the description of it. I ended up buying this videotape, and it showed up, and I was like, man, this is like
cool, so
good. But yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah, in around the mid-late 2000s, Anchor Bay released it, and now I believe it's out of print again.
Yeah.
But you can get it. It's out there.
The Della Morte dell'Amore version, that's the legit, uncut,
right,
you know, Italian version. And then there's like Cemetery Man. If you see that, most likely you're not going to be watching you're going to be watching like an American cut.
There's different versions, unfortunately. That is true.
Yeah. The video cassette I have is the uncut, legit, you know, director's edition of it, where it's got, you know, Anna Falchi's naked in it, which is always, it blew my mind when I watched it, because she's like so beautiful and just
no, it is a great movie.
Naked in that movie.
Oh yeah, so fully naked, full nude.
Yeah,
fully nude.
I became a little bit obsessed with her after seeing that back in the 90s, and
that's okay.
Yeah,
I became obsessed with Asia Argento, seeing her naked in about 4 or 5 of her dad's movies. But hey, you know, it's just it is what it is. These European women, man, what can you do?
They're free out there.
They're very free out there. Nudity's not a problem.
Well, that's our Halloween episode.
Yes, our Halloween edition, our top 10s. And you know what? Just to be real quick, I'm going to run down my top 10s just by name alone. My number 10, Rosemary's Baby. My number 9, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Number 8, Hellraiser. Number 7, Last House on the Left, the original. Number 6, Dawn of the Dead, the original. Number 5, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Number 4, Halloween, of course, the original. Number 3, Suspiria. Number 2, Exorcist. And number 1, The Shining.
And my list, my top 10, is Dawn of the Dead remake, Zack Snyder. The original Halloween. Session 9. Event Horizon. Evil Dead. Alien. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hellraiser. The Thing. And last but not least, number 1, Night of the Living Dead.
Great list.
And there you have it.
All right, there you guys have it. We hope you guys enjoyed this one, this slight little detour of sorts in the way we've done things in the past with Necromaniacs. But we will return in November, of course.
And everyone have a great Samhain, Halloween, whatever you want to call it.
Safe,
Safe, And we'll see you guys next time.
Yes, absolutely. Cheers.
Cherries off of the ground.